Welcome, one and all, to Lighting the Way with Beth Green and Friends. As you can see, tonight's topic is worried or conscientious. Which are you, and how can that affect your life? So, this is a topic that goes deep into the human psyche and soul. And it's not only about the world, the external world that we're living in. It's also about our personal lives and everything that we do and face. So, I want to tell you what inspired me to bring up this topic tonight. And it was a dream that I had last night. And in the dream, I was with a bunch of people and they were doing things. That was not supposed to happen. I'm moving my microphone down. Yeah, I don't like to have that mic right in my face. And so now this is wrong. See, but I'm not going to worry. So I'm going to have fun with this. So in the dream, there was a bunch of people and they were playing music, and this guy was there, and he was, and I was very, I don't know this guy. I don't know what he's going to do. And I see him taking this garment, this piece of clothing off a woman, and I'm thinking, what is he doing? And then I see him wrapping it back on her. And I thought, isn't that interesting? Now I wake up from this dream feeling very conflicted. On the one hand, I think this is very inappropriate of him. And then on the other hand, I'm thinking, why am I so uptight? Nothing actually happened. Well, I will tell you why I am so uptight. I am so uptight because I was molested as a child. I was raped at knife point several times. I've had a lot of men be sexually aggressive with me that I had to fight them off. And so I'm immediately suspicious, right? So you might think, well, okay, that's natural. So what does this have to do with your topic? It has everything to do with my topic, because I started thinking about how uptight I can be at times. Now, I had a very stressed mother, very, controlling. She didn't want anything to touch her. She never touched me except when I was sick, and I thought, well, yeah, there's a lot that went into how I feel about things like that. And then I have a lot of allergies. I'm allergic to everything, whether that's really dangerous or not. Like, I can't tolerate. Last night we went out to dinner and there were onions in the food. It's like, oh my God, onions. I can't eat onions. I can't eat onions. I can't eat this. I can't eat that. I can't this. I can't that. I can't. And I started putting it all together. And I thought, this is really interesting. My whole psyche, with my brain in charge of all of this, is on constant, it's dangerous. Now, there are people who do brain retraining. I have chronic fatigue syndrome, otherwise known as myalgic encephalomyelitis. So I'd rather call it chronic fatigue syndrome. Anyway, and there are people who say, well, sometimes you've been traumatized and your brain gets hypersensitized. Well, I've been traumatized in so many ways, on so many levels. And it is also true that I was born with a hereditary condition. So you put those two things together and I'm a mess. Now let's look at the words that came to me for the name of the show. Are you worried or just conscientious? Now look at the word conscientious. I'm going to bring this up so you can see what I'm talking about. Do you see science in conscientious? It's like conscious, science, us. Okay. So, what does science tell us? It's always describing what is, or it is trying to describe what is objectively so. And so I began to think about the difference between my reactions and objective reality. I'm not the only person, by the way, who can't eat a million things. There's a lot of people like me. And I'm not saying that it's all from trauma or the brain, but I look at myself. Now, I look at some other people that I know very well. There are other people who are even more anxious than I am, even more worried. But there are certain areas, especially relating to my body, where I am very, very anxious and cautious. And having been sick most of my life, I'm not surprised that I have that, but it doesn't really matter. The point is, am I geared to be anxious, or is there something external really happening, conscientious about what's going on? So that's the question that I am asking you to look at. Now, I bet you think that your state of mind, whether you tend to be a worrying person or a kind of a cavalier person, I'm not talking about we should all go out and leap over 15 cars in a motorcycle. That's not fearful or conscientious. That's just stupid and reckless as far as I'm concerned, okay? But there are things, and I said, okay, today I'm going to get up and I'm not going to let myself be run by fear. I have a fear of heat because my body just crumbles when it's hot. And so we had been in a very cool environment. He came back to the heat, and I immediately went under. And I said, "No, I've got to. It's hot. Does that mean my body has to crumble? Do I have to go to sleep?" That was my cell phone. Anyway, so I really faced this question today, and I'm facing this in a lot of ways. And I want you to face it too, to think about the things you think about, you worry about, that you're anxious about, that you're uptight about, that you micromanage, that you try to control, and ask yourself, are you being conscientious, looking at things objectively? Or are you being reactive from the inside? And I want you to look at that. And why is that so important? Because when you are reactive, you have no command over your own life and yourself. You are limited by the things that scare you. I'm afraid of insects. Why? Well, my mother was afraid of insects, and there are insects you have to worry about. You don't want to get, the tsetse fly, or you don't want to get Lyme. You don't want to be bitten by a black widow spider. That's being conscious. So you're conscientious about those things. But to walk around your whole life being afraid of, something that's lurking in nature is going to limit your life. And on an emotional level, you can see it. Now, in our day, there's a lot of objective things going on that you could say are sort of frightening, like assaults on our democracy and so on. And these are real. These are not created by our minds. These are going on. However, how we react to those things depends on how much we are dominated by the residue of trauma. And if we want to be free, we need to address that. We need to admit it. We need to face it, and we need to try to heal it. So, with that, I'm going to bring on my friends. One of our regulars, Lizzie, is working tonight and can't be with us. But we do have some lovely people. And first of all, we have Todd Benton.
One lovely person on the way.
Yeah, wonderful to see you, Todd.
Likewise.
And the other lovely person is James Maynard.
Hello, everybody. Great to be here.
So, shall we try that? That seems like a good way to do it, don't you think? Lining them
Yeah,
up this way? Yeah.
it's working as long as I just sit in the right spot.
Yeah. All righty. So now, if you want to make we are simultaneously broadcasting on YouTube and Facebook. particularly my Facebook public page, Granny Rocks, the music and message of Beth Green. And there's YouTube is at Beth Green TV. And I know we have people watching because I can see the numbers, and we'd love to hear from you in this discussion um, tonight. And this is an important subject for, I think, for everybody, because it's always a combination of things to worry about, things that are real and things that are, in our heads. And do we even want to admit that they're in our heads? Okay. So take it away. Who would like to share first?
Okay.
James.
Yes, uh, I have worry in regard to women, and I have worry in regard to men. My
I don't.
worry in regard to women is that I had a mother who was pretty darn scary when she got angry. She would go on a rampage and she would insult whoever was there, and it was really scary for me. And so I've come to have a certain fear that when a woman gets angry, all hell is going to break loose. It's going to be traumatic. It's going to be awful. And so that's a definite barrier to intimacy. And then on the other hand, I have a fear of male authority figures, particularly. My father was a male authority figure. And of course, he believed in spare the rod, you spoil the child. And so he didn't spare the rod. He gave spankings with belts. And so I was afraid of him. And so I've had this undercurrent of fear with regard to men. And if a man gets angry, then I'm afraid that all hell could break loose there too. So these are examples of, well, wait a minute, not all men are untrustworthy authority figures. There are some who are benevolent, some who are compassionate, kind, whatever. And so I'm not being conscientious when I get into that reaction. Same with women. Not all women are going to be scary and rageful and hurtful. Uh, and so I need to be more conscientious to recognize, wait a minute, there are a lot of women who are not that way. So that's my true confession.
That's great. So by being conscientious, I mean really evaluating objectively, is this a threat? And is it a threat to me? And is it a threat to me now?
Right.
Right? And
Yeah.
all of those questions, you have to be able to, and then what do you do about it? And if you're worried and fearful, you will probably be stupid in your reaction. I say stupid, I mean, we're all
Reactive.
stupid, reactive.
Yeah.
We're not being conscientious. We're just being driven by fear. I'm sure we've all had that experience. Okay, James, we may be back because I think you might discover that there's a lot more that applies to you than you already realize. So, how about you, Todd? There's nobody else to defer to, so
That's
it's
right.
gotta be
No, this
you.
is a really good topic. I mean, I think it's not something that's usually talked about. And I think it's very deep in terms of how much what we're doing, what it's shaped by. And again, it goes unquestioned, I think, a lot.
Yes, that's
Yeah, within
exactly the right
ourselves and
point.
within other people. We don't
Yeah,
question other people about these things, and we don't
yeah,
question ourselves about these things, especially.
right.
So I can relate to what James was saying. I was going to go in a little bit different direction, that, a lot of times I think I'm being conscientious, and it's probably something else masquerading as like trying to be right. And those are all driven by those things that you were talking about: my upbringing, my trauma that I've experienced. I don't need to go into the trauma and explain it all. I mean, James gave an example, and that's very much me too. Not my mom so much, but my dad. And we all have our trauma. So that's not the important point. The important point is to see the patterns and question ourselves. So that's what
Yes,
I'm looking at, is like, okay, this motivation to have everything be in its proper place, in the proper order, at the proper time. I mean, I do get into like little micromanagement type of thing. I'm like, yeah, I don't know if that's conscientious or just the OCD, based on my trauma. so,
yeah,
so that's an example. I mean, there's a lot of things. So I don't have the answer yet, because this opens up a question, almost a Pandora's box, I think, for most people. Because most of the time we're wanting to hide that because we don't look good when we're revealing our, I mean, if we're honest about it and say, oh, I realize I just did that, I know that's coming from trauma, my old past thing. And so you can own it pretty quickly if you're just forthright about it. But I know I've been trained to try and hide that for most of my life. So I'm
Mhm.
constantly in a state of like, okay, let's see how I can maneuver here so they don't find out. Or if they do, deny it, defend, and, resist, and, pretend that's not happening. So
And kill the
that's,
opposition.
and kill the opposition. Right. Kill. Yes. Go after the person that's bringing that up.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I do.
It's personal. I mean, it's not, but it feels
No,
like it,
I
I'm sure.
understand it. I mean, I really understand it.
Mhm.
I think, Todd, you're bringing up an extremely important point, which is everything that makes us deny that this is true about
Mhm.
us.
Yeah.
Because let's say you have the initial trauma and you're reactive.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, if you admit that you're reactive, you are now opening another level of vulnerability. So obviously, it's your feeling of vulnerability that creates the reaction to start with.
Yeah.
Now you admit that you're nuts and that you're just, that you're reacting. And now you feel even more vulnerable
That's right. Mhm.
because now you're being exposed as a quote nut. Now, or neurotic or whatever judgment we have. Now, once we get it that everybody has this pretty much, and even the guys who are jumping over 15 cars on a motorcycle, I bet you there's something inside them that is driving them to do that that is not rational.
Mhm.
For example, a need to prove themselves, or a feeling of unattractiveness that they think is somehow going to be different if they look really masculine or macho or something like that, or they felt like losers and they have to, so all of that stuff. So now we have this raw vulnerability, and then we admit it, and we have raw vulnerability because what are people going to do to us if they find out? And as I said, if we only could recognize that we all have this,
Yeah.
and and that we can see it in other people too. I think James was talking about that we begin to understand, because see, I look at people sometimes and I feel, what is going on with them? This feels crazy, right?
Mhm.
Well, but there's something there.
Yeah.
There is something that's triggering that kind of response. But my first reaction to them, see, because I'm going to have a reaction to their reaction.
Mhm.
If people are all down and worried and upset and fearful and resistant and all that, well, I'm going to feel put down, shut down, if I try to say something to them, and then I have to get defensive. So now I'm having a reaction to their reaction to me describing the fact that they're having a reaction. It can get pretty gnarly, can't it?
Pretty quickly. But
Pretty quick.
the other side is, if I think about the people that I've known in my life that have credibility, it's the people that self-own those things, and they're honest about it, and they're revealing about it. Like, so
Yes.
we also have that as an example to remind ourselves, like, okay, yes, that does feel scary, but if we look at the people in our lives that we trust the most, there's probably a correlation between the people that we trust and their level of self authenticity, meaning they're self revealing about those things, and calling themselves on things. I think about my wife that way. That's one of the things I love about her. She's very honest with her own feelings, and
Mm.
when she's triggered by something, she tends to own it. And that, I don't know how that came about for her, but I'm glad it did. I mean, sometimes I don't like
Mm.
it because then when she's challenging me on something, but um, but I think about that and I think, geez, that's, if I could look at it in that way, like, okay, if other people are doing this and building their own value, their credibility, then why can't I do that?
That's a great point, Todd, because you're talking about what can we do? And one
Mhm.
thing we can do is look at the people who we trust and see what they do
Mhm.
and how they handle their vulnerabilities. And that's a great point. And recognize the fact that when people are honest about their reactions, we don't go after them with a hatchet. Now, I can't say that nobody will ever go after you with a hatchet if you
Right.
feel, you
That's
know,
true.
but so what? If you don't
Yeah.
care, if you're not reacting to that, so that's another reaction. It's like, oh, they're coming after me. They don't like me. I'm not going to be the, elected president of my class, or whatever it is. Won't get the raise. So we look at all these things and we think that, oh, I'm really upset because I didn't get the raise, when really I'm upset because somebody is not approving of me or not giving me validation. And so I can look at that and say, well, why do I care if this person validates me or not? Maybe I'm in the wrong business. Maybe they are right. And maybe I should be doing something else instead of saying, no, they're totally wrong. Or maybe I can learn something to get better in this, or maybe I need a new job. And by the way, you guys, if you're out there and you have a comment or you want to share something, please put it in the comment section on Facebook. And if you are on my personal Facebook page, I will not see your comment. But if you're on my public page, I will, and I will also see your comment. If you're in YouTube and you put your comment out there, there's a live chat thing.
Mhm.
Anyway, uh, yeah, so you're right. This could be a way of understanding other people instead of just judging them, a way of feeling compassion for yourself because I don't know what happened to me this morning that I was able to look at this thing about my sexuality, and because I've been pretty free in the old days when I was still physically capable of doing it, and so I never thought I had an issue, but I think I do, and I said, "Oh, yeah, I've had all these traumas, but I don't think it's impacted me." But I think it has, and I think it has to do with sort of like pulling back and, looking for, "Oh, is this a bad intention?" Or just feeling like I have to control myself or feeling uptight. The word that came to me is uptight. That in some ways I am uptight, and it's not just in that. I mean, I had a mother who walked around the house with a pair of white gloves going over the Venetian blinds with the glove, to see if there was any dust. I mean, I had a mother who, washed the bathroom floor before she went to work every day.
Wow.
Would I be uptight? I mean, do you think there's anything,
Any correlation, any relationship between those two things? Yeah.
right. So there's a lot of things that have contributed to that. And so I just started laughing and I said, in some ways I'm uptight. In some ways I'm amazingly not uptight. I'll say anything to anybody except if I think I'm gonna hurt their feelings. That's hard. That's hard. But I'm not afraid of being punished for my ideas, but my body is tense, and I feel tense at night when I go to sleep.
Mhm.
And one of the reasons that I like cuddling with James, who is my husband, by the way, I'm allowed, even if we weren't husband and um, I'm tense. It's the minute I hit the bed, my body is tense. And now I understand why, because it's such a place of vulnerability, and I've been abused so much. And, so I can have compassion for myself. So the same thing for you. If
Yeah.
you're struggling with something and you start admitting it, it's like once you have compassion for yourself, it's much easier to talk about it because you're saying, "No wonder I'm like that. It doesn't mean that I'm a bad person or that I'm, defective in some way. It just means that I've had this experience." Which I think brings us back to you, James, because have you thought of something else, um, I think, I noticed that you started out with your mother being, the muscular woman, which is something you come up with just every time you start to look at something new, you come up with blaming your mother for that versus seeing what happened. uh, the real reason that you have trouble with intimacy with women. So you might take a look at that and say, gee, I thought I was being honest, but I really wasn't being all that vulnerable, was I? Was you?
Um, well, I guess I wasn't being all that vulnerable when I was sharing,
No.
but in those scenarios, I feel vulnerable. Scenarios with the woman or the man.
Yes, but why do you feel vulnerable? I think that you came up with explanations which were a little bit, I mean, you know more about those things than you're saying. A lot more about those things than you're saying. So that's what I'm pointing out.
Well, yeah, I guess if I were being more conscientious and less coming from fear, I would say objectively, my mother really cared about me and the other kids and really endeavored to give us the opportunities to fulfill our highest potentials. She was very strong about that. So she was a great ally.
And
And
so what gets in the way of you having a warm, intimate relationship with a woman? Yeah, not to say that, especially later in her life, she didn't have some mental illness. And, everybody gets angry. I don't know how parents don't kill their children. I know that God, I was not meant to be a mother. I don't have the patience of a saint. I just, anyway. So I'm just saying I'm understanding of that. But go ahead, James.
um,
So what did get in the way of you of feeling comfortable being close to women?
well, I thought it was fear of vulnerability and being hurt.
Have you forgotten? Do you want me to say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's that your father didn't approve.
Oh, that's right. My
Okay.
father interfered with me, my being more intimate with my mother
Right.
on an emotional level.
Right.
That's right. So there's that fear of, oh, it's not okay.
Because the real authority figure was your father.
That's right.
So, why do you think you forgot that tonight?
Hmm. Am I afraid of going against the male fraternity?
Yeah,
Yep, there it is.
even here. Now you're in a more public environment. You're not just talking to me or to a few friends, and you're admitting that a lot of the fear you have of women is because of your fear of your father's reaction to you being close to a woman.
Right. That's right.
Now that doesn't sound very macho, does it?
No, it doesn't.
And who needs to be? Why does any man need to be macho anyway?
There is no need for that. Just be yourself. Be natural.
Right. Be conscientious. Let's say you're aware that there's a saber-toothed tiger in the neighborhood, and you need to be aware, or that there is a war, or that you're in a neighborhood where there's a lot of gang violence or so on. You have to be conscientious. You have to look. I remember what it was like living in very poor neighborhoods. In fact, I lived in a lot of tenement buildings in New York City, and I had to keep my eyes open in the subway. I had to keep my eyes open in the hall. I had to be alert, but I didn't want to be paralyzed. I didn't want to be afraid to go out. I didn't want to be afraid of people. I wanted to, maybe I'm stupid, but I would rather trust people to start with than distrust them.
Mhm.
So that's why it was so fascinating to me to have that dream where I realized that on some physical level, I'm very uptight, and I want to look at maybe I seem to have gotten in and I've gotten out of focus. All right. I wonder if I
If you
can do
lean
it.
back, if you lean back, you might return to focus.
No, that didn't work.
Your focus disappeared when you leaned forward. Same.
No, it's because I moved. Isn't it fuzzy?
It is. Sorry.
Let me try it again. All right. I'm coming back. Oh,
No, you're just blurry. Boy.
well, anyway,
We
there's
can still
gremlins
make you out.
everywhere. Huh?
We can still make you out.
Good. Well, especially if you have a small screen. If you have a big, ooh, maybe, maybe. Well, I'm going to give it one more try. Disable camera. Press V. Okay. Ah. Oh, LTW, lighting the way. Yes. Anyway, I started laughing at myself. Oh, I'm still laughing at myself. Okay. Okay. Whatever. Right?
Yeah. So weird. It's not even trying to get back into focus. All right.
No, it
The
isn't.
camera froze.
Oh, is it frozen?
No, it's not frozen, but it's like it's frozen in blurry mode.
Right,
I don't
blurry mode.
understand it.
Well, see, somebody probably doesn't like the topic. So, does anybody out there in our listening, viewing audience want to share something about themselves? This is a safe place. Don't be afraid. If not, I would like to ask you, while we're waiting, to give this a like or a love on Facebook, give us a thumbs up on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook, and share this program with others. And don't forget, we are here every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time to talk about whatever it is that we're supposed to talk about. And we invite you to always to come back and to share this program with others. And also on Thursday nights, we do magical improvs. James and I are the Kindred Spirits band, and we play music. And we intuit the music in the moment, and it's a blast. And people can ask for a theme that they want us to play to, uh, and we really enjoy that. So before we close, I would like to just check in with everybody, like just check in with your heart. Is this helpful? Are you willing to look at this? I want you to know that you can get through this. You can get through this. Some people need a lot of deep healing work. I don't know why we have an echo, but anyway, some people need deep healing work, but it's worth it because when we are in worry mode or reactive mode, we lose life. We're so afraid that we're going to lose something or be hurt, but we don't recognize how hurt we are by this fearfulness. So remember, there are things to fear and things to protect ourselves from. But when this becomes a habit, you're not protecting yourself. You're protecting a pattern of behavior that keeps you trapped and me trapped too. So I hope that you have enjoyed this press out with some original music. And we love you and really appreciate you, whether or not you write a comment. Bye bye.
Bye bye.